Hi, everyone, and thanks Step Forward for the invitation. I'm really glad to be here. I'll start by shortly introducing myself. I'm Bogdan. I'm co-founder and CEO at Nestor. We started Nestor back in 2018, and we are part of Y Combinator in the summer 2018 batch. And since 2019, we're also on the European market and we're growing fast. We're always hiring, so be sure to also check out our career page for current job openings. I'll touch also a bit on what Nestor is and then get into answering your questions. So Nestor is an intelligent employee coaching tool that helps managers with actionable insights on how to coach their people for performance and focus on building a leadership-driven culture. We help companies build a future-ready workforce by taking a data-driven approach to understanding which talent dimensions drive engagement and performance. And that being said, let's start with the first question. How should somebody, so the question is, how should somebody that is new to pitching start working on their first startup presentation? So my advice here is to start with the end in mind. Think of 3 to 4 key takeaways that you'd like the audience to remain in mind with after you've finished your pitch. To do this, you should structure your pitch so that it's targeted to the audience that you want to pitch to, and some slides that always are good to be added are the problem slide, where you describe what problem you are trying to solve, the solution, where you're describing how you're solving this problem, how you're helping the world by, or your software is helping the world by solving this problem, the team, which is one of the most important, at least in the first steps, it's one of the most important slides in your deck. And there you should say about how your team is uniquely qualified to solve this problem, and what are your key points, what are your greatest achievements. And then, of course, you should add something about the opportunity, the market, and your business model. And if you are at the stage that you have traction is ideal to also add in the pitch. Traction could be revenue if you already have revenue, but could be anything else. For example, waiting lists, could be users, even non-paying users. So something that shows growth and shows that you've already put your MVP into the hands of some users. The next question would be, what resources do you recommend to better understand the mechanics of pitching? The best way to do this is to look at public decks and get inspired. So see how others have pitched their companies at a similar stage. There's a lot of public information. Connect with founders who have already done this, and this is a great, and have successfully done this, and this is a great way to figure out what the messaging should be, what are the mechanics, and so on. If you're pitching to investors, understand what angels and VCs are interested in, and you can do this publicly. You can search on Twitter, you can see on their pages. Try to find out as much as possible what are they interested in. And another good resource that came up recently is Clubhouse. You'll see a lot of meetings focused on public joint meetings, focused on just giving advice on your pitch and kind of practicing the pitch out loud in front of other people. The next question is, what should a pitch contain to keep the listener engaged? This is a tough one, because what I found that it's best and what keeps the listener engaged is if you have a story. Pitching is similar to storytelling. So if you can start with a story, with a personal story of how you started the company and why, what determined you to start this company, and how you found the problem and how you're solving it. This is the best way to keep the listener engaged. We all like to listen to stories, and we're used to it, and it gets interesting and engaging for the other person. Other technical advice would be to use a single idea per slide. Don't try to cram up too many ideas in a single slide. Don't make them hard to read with a lot of text. This is not kind of a booklet that you would share with somebody. Just put a simple idea, one idea per slide, and try to keep to a maximum of 10 slides so that people are engaged. It's not taking you too much to go through it, and you can spark the interest. Each slide is a new idea in your story. It should not have any marketing material, and always, as a general advice, simple is better. How do you strategize your pitch according to the person you're pitching to? This is a good question. It depends on who you're talking to, who your audience is. So you can do a pitch for different purposes. For example, for finding co-founders, for partnering with other companies in your market vertical, or in other market verticals that could help you grow. You can do pitchment for investments and for intros and so on. So when you strategize your pitch, think about the audience that you're talking to. If it's a public pitch where you have a large audience, uh, focus on your interest. Focus on what you want to achieve from pitching. Do you want to, I don't know, find a partner, find an investor, get some intros, get some signups? I don't know. Depending on what you want to get and the audience there, the specific of the audience, you should kind of structure your pitch a little bit different. Now, if you're doing a one-on-one meeting with an investor, for example, or an angel investor or a VC, the best thing to kind of strategize your pitch is to find out, to do your due diligence on that person, to find out what investments he has made in the past, what are the areas of interest that you can find on public platforms, on their website, or just follow them on Twitter and see what moves them, and try to kind of slowly adjust your pitch. It's not necessarily to adjust the visual, but adjust your messaging so that it speaks to them. And even a good resource would even be to ask founders that already are invested by that person to see what worked for them and what not, what advice they have for you, and what's something that makes the person that you're talking with tick and connect with you. What are the differences between pitching your idea to early customers and pitching to investors? This is a very good point, and I'd love to touch on this. So first of all, I would say that think of pitching to investors, or a pitch that's made for investors, that is not a closing mechanism. It's totally different than when you're pitching to customers, where you'd love for the customer to say, yes, I'm on board, I'll sign up now, or just send me an offer and I'll go into the tool, or into a contract with you. So in contrast with customer pitches or sales pitches, the investment pitches are are targeted not to be a closing mechanism. It's more to spark interest and to spark an interesting conversation after the pitch. So if you're doing, for example, the pitch on scene, then you'd love for people to connect afterwards over email or directly in person to find out more about your business. So what you include in the pitch should be so the simple things that spark interest about your business. So it doesn't need to be a whole presentation of your product or of the main features in your product. I would even say don't include don't include your main features of the product. Just say how people will use it, how it will look in the hands of customers, but don't focus on really showcasing or demoing the product in the pitch, at least during the pitch. The difference so is in content. It's as I said, it's not a showcase of the product. It should be more focused on the business idea and the opportunity, and you as founders or as a team, instead of being focused on what the product is, try to not include science talk, try to not include marketing language. Just keep it in simple terms, and think that most of the investors you will be talking with are not so connected with the market vertical where your product is or your science in the product, and they need to understand so that you can keep them engaged. Going back to the previous question, so it's very important to make it as simple as possible and not use I know this language, this complicated language or scientific language in your pitch. Let's see the next question. How do you attract angel investors and make sure that your pitch helps you get the best deal for you as founders? There are two parts to for this question, and let me start with the first one. So to attract angel investors or investors in general to be ready to pitch for, there are several ways, but the best one is to build your network. And always a warm introduction to an angel or a VC or any investor out there is a warm introduction. So if you can find somebody that can intro you to that angel or that investor, that's the best way to reach them out and slowly build your network. To do this, it's always good, even for the investors that you pitch, to ask for introductions further. So just see who they're connected with or who they have invested in the past along with in rounds, and ask for introductions to build up your network. Of course, a good way to reach out to investors in general is participating in an accelerator, participating in open competitions. So doing this will slowly build your network and make you connected with more investors. And what I'd love to leave you with here is also that everybody is nowadays can be an investor. So don't miss out on opportunities. Just talk about your business and try to get people on board and excited so that they can at some point invest in your company. Now, to touch on the second part of the question, how do you make sure that the pitch helps you get the best deal? The real part here is that you won't get it right from the beginning. You should think of this speech like a slow iteration, that you go from one person, see the objections, see how they feel about it, see if you need to change anything, and then start small get feedback, take notes after every meeting, adjust the pitch deck, and then restart again. And it's a slow process that will you'll get crystallized over time. So it takes a few iterations for you to see what objections people have. Is it interesting? Is it not interesting? Should I rephrase what I'm saying? Do they understand enough of what I'm saying or not? And this you will see because of the follow-up questions after you finish the pitch. If they're interested, they will start to ask further questions, and you will see where things were not understood, and you can then iterate on that and make it more clear, make it, or if, for example, they understand that you're doing something totally different than what you're doing, then it's clear that you haven't positioned the pitch, and what you're saying in the pitch is not clear to them from the beginning. So they have been listening to your pitch thinking that your product is something totally different. So this is, for example, a red flag to adjust your pitch and your deck. Let's go into the next question. How do you prepare for the questions that you might get after pitching? This can be a little bit guided by you, because when you do the pitch and you do the pitching, you intentionally left out some parts of your of the information that you could share with the listeners, because it's too much information, and usually you kind of get people lost. So it's better to let them ask the questions after that. So this is one of the things that you could use to kind of figure out what questions will you get after pitching. And these are usually clarification questions. They can be about your team, they can be about how you know each other, if you worked previously in another company, for example, together, or you have done projects together before the current venture. That's also a question. It can be questions about competitors, about the market, and questions about your traction, like how do you get this traction, how do you see it going forward, questions about your strategy on the long run and on the short term, like what's the next step for you, questions about the vision, questions about I don't know, about if you're raising, how much you're raising, do you have or don't you have at this point some committed checks already in the round, and so on. But going back to the previous question, you'll get better in time. So the more you do the practice, you'll see similar questions coming up, and then you'll be more prepared. You should always have some or create, after getting the questions, some additional slides with annexes that could kind of convey your idea and convey the message that you want to send, and kind of be also a visual helper for the person you're pitching to better answer the questions. I think that's it here. So you have to be prepared to answer questions about your business and how you're doing it, and about your vision, if I were to summarize this. What are the most common mistakes that you've seen in pitching? The most common mistakes, most common mistake that I've seen in pitching is usually done by technical founders, and this also happened to me. For example, because of my technical background, it happened to me in the beginning. So it's the mistake is speaking too much about the product or the technology and not enough focus on the business part. So the specifics of the business and how it of the product and how it works is of no interest in the beginning. So it's just how it's solving the problem, and what you can add is how the user uses your product to get that problem fixed. So this is the most common mistake, not focusing on the business enough. Then the second most common mistake is using marketing language. This is the pitch for investment is not, definitely not a marketing tool. So you should use simple words, not use marketing language. Don't use scientific language. This is a big no-no, because people might not understand. For example, if you're creating a new type of database, and just say that you're creating a new type of database that will be faster, that will work, I don't know, much better, and will be powered by AI. I don't know, it's just a random example that I thought of now. But don't say that, I don't know, it creates, I don't know what kind of logs, and it's on that kind of servers, and that's why it works better. This is something that you shouldn't include in the pitch. Leave it for the questions afterwards, if the person is knows enough about your domain, because usually we will reach out to people who will not be experts in the science of your product, but more experts in the business part. Another mistake that I see often enough, and this is a kind of a beginner's mistake, is adding too much unnecessary info. So this makes the listener lose track of the main idea. And at the end, if you were to ask for feedback of what they remained with from your pitch, you would see that there was a lot of kind of information all over the place, and they couldn't figure out what the main idea is there. So this would be kind of the third mistake that I've encountered. Can you share some tips and tricks for an impactful presentation, handling anxiety, speech technique, etc.? Yes. First of all, I would say that you won't get rid of anxiety. So you'll always be anxious about pitching, but you'll learn to live with it. So you'll teach yourself to kind of control it and use it for the better, for keeping you focused and keeping you on point and stuff like this. So the best way to get rid of anxiety or get in control of anxiety is to practice. So start with first putting down the pitch deck, and then kind of making a conversation around it. Start with pitching it to yourself, like do a recording on your phone of you pitching, look at it, see where you could improve, and then go further in pitching it to your co-founders, go forward in pitching it to your team, pitch it to your friends, pitch it to whomever will listen for a few minutes to you to tell the pitch, because this is how you'll get into that rhythm, and you'll already have control of the pitch, and you'll see also what if people understand. You will be ready, a little bit more ready to answer the questions and feel more comfortable. In terms of pitching on stage, when you pitch on stage, and when you pitch, even when you pitch in a one-to-one meeting, just speak uncomfortably, in an uncomfortably slow pace. Don't go fast, because when we're anxious, we tend to go fast and speak a lot faster than usual. Just leave space and time for people to understand and to kind of imagine together with you what the product is, what the business is, and where it goes. So this would be kind of the second advice here. And wherever you're pitching, don't forget to smile. Don't forget to sit or stand in a relaxed, open position. Be open. Try to use your hands to in-phase what's necessary, and when it's necessary, record yourself again and see if you're doing too much movement or you're doing too less movement. So I think these are the best things to do to practice the pitch. And don't forget to practice. Practice makes perfect. What are the best and worst startup pitches that you've seen, and what have you learned from them? That's a hard one. So the best pitches that I've seen are concise. They don't give you much information about how the business works. It's just starting with the personal story, usually. Like, we stumbled upon this problem, or we found about this problem like this. This is what happened. Look, we looked out there. This is the how we found out that other people are having this problem. This is the solution that we have figured out. This is why it's the right moment, and we're the right team to figure this out and make it into a real profitable business. And then showing, okay, there's a big market out there, and the opportunity is quite big. So it's we're looking for partners or investors to go in this venture together. The worst pitches are usually the ones where you go into a lot of information, where you're so anxious that you can't really put out the message, so it kind of becomes a little bit blurry. Or the ones that in person, for example, the worst ones are when the investor loses interest halfway. So he either doesn't understand the business, or he thought your company did something else. So those are the worst situation, I would say. So I don't know if there are any other questions. Probably not at this time. So I'd love to wrap up, and thank you for listening to me, and thank Step Forward again for having me here. And if I were to leave you with something, is don't use marketing language. Make it a conversation starter. Don't use unnecessary information. Just put the bare minimum necessary, and practice. Thanks so much.